Welcome to the 11 Warriors show for Thursday, April 11th, 2024. I'm Jason Priestis. He's Chris Lauterbach, and that's Ramsey Nasrallah. Gents, how are you today?
I'm good. It's game week. It's Saturday coming.
Game zero.
Yeah, it's good to be alive, right? Yeah, you got people coming out to the shoe on Saturday, and looks like the weather might even cooperate. And yeah, a lot to be excited about, especially after Dave met with the media yesterday. I'm sure we'll get into all that. So yeah, it feels like a lot of good buzz, a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, coaches speaking with the media, game week, all that fun stuff. Tournaments in the books, the men's basketball, women's basketball. Got like two similar games, right? At least to me, it seemed that way. Like the best player was on one team, but the other team was just stacked.
Yeah, a couple of G League teams won the respective tournaments, and it's almost it's both awe-inspiring to see how good Connecticut and South Carolina were, but also a little depressing. Like, how do you compete with that?
Yeah,
you're not one or two or three people away. It's taller than that.
Yeah, I'm Team Dawn Staley. She was cool. She was fun to watch, but UConn is just this juggernaut. They're just so deep. Like, I don't know how a guy even scores 15 because they have so many guys that can score and share the ball.
That must be nice.
They're an amoeba. That's a one organism team too. It's not five dudes. They're going to keep winning.
Pulling great players out of New York City and right down the road. And like I did read something the other day about Hurley. Like day two, he went in and just like I don't know what role Calhoun was in at the time, if he was an AD or an advisor or something there, but just complained like he wanted out like 2 days in. He's like, this place is a mess. He's like, you're going to build it back. So maybe there's some hope, but the blueprint's out there, right? They've got it. That's how you win these games is like get a bunch of 6'8" dudes that can run and shoot and play good basketball and just throw waves at people, right? Those guys are everywhere, right?
Get them to play connected as they are to Ramsey's point. It's not just that they have talent. Those guys are selfless and they just, I don't know. It's amazing how well they fit together, knowing all of them could go to other teams and be the best player on that team. So I give Hurley a lot of credit. I think he's hard to like for some people because he's, certainly confident. But, man, I love his approach. He was so right about assessing his team. Like, even again, the Alabama game, it's like, yeah, teams can hang with us for 18 or 25, but to be able to keep our pace and keep, effectively executing for 40 minutes is just no team's been able to duplicate that yet.
I was talking to a guy who used to coach under Bruce Pearl this week about UConn. Actually, backtrack, I made a wager with him a month ago. I took UConn and gave him the other 67 teams. So I won the bet.
That. Yeah.
He was telling me that Hurley has this it's like a strategy of taking a freshman guard out of the transfer portal. Could be good, could be great, not going to be terrible, but it's about the attitude that he feels like he's been disrespected. And he said that getting one of those guys every year out of the portal or pre-portal from transferring, you feed off of his disrespect and his energy, and it gives you tailwinds the whole year. It helps give a buoyancy to your animus, to your like urgency, to your stamina. And I wonder if there's something to that. Like someone that just like is so angry and so motivated that it becomes contagious in the locker room.
You've got to guide that well though, because the flip side of that is you get like a Baker Mayfield who once he gets his revenge, he's like, all right, I can slip a little bit, right? So, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's fun to watch. Yeah. Back to Columbus, man. The kids are all right. Been hearing a lot of buzz out of camp, spring ball here. Let's start with Julian Sayin. I mean, there's a couple of young fellas that are blowing up, but he's lost his black stripe on Monday. The buzz you're getting about him is pretty intense right now. And I was thinking about we'll talk about Jeremiah Smith in a second because believe it or not, he's getting more buzz than Sayin. But like, think of guys who've gotten a lot of buzz through the years early at Ohio State, and like none of them have been quarterbacks. Like I was trying to think of one, man. Like Ewers didn't get any buzz. He was just kind of here, right? There was no one coming out of camp saying, "Oh, Quinn might challenge for the job this year." He's like, no, he was just here. He was going to wait his time. I'm having a hard time trying to remember any quarterback that's come in and gotten buzz. Terrell would be one, I'm guessing, right?
Braxton, but we don't remember it because of Tatgate. He's a freshman in the 2011 team. They didn't do black stripes. This is the first black stripe era quarterback that's gotten buzz like that. But when TP showed up, when you see him in person, you're like, how is this? Like, did he come from a different planet? And then Braxton just breaking ankles back and forth.
Braxton also had a super bare cupboard, so you almost had to thrust him into the conversation, right? Because there was no one else around. He was great, but that helped.
Yeah.
But both those guys kind of had like caveats, right? They weren't throwers. They're like, okay, we can teach these guys to throw. Like they're tremendous athletes. Like this is a guy that's already just dropping dimes, like Dr. Dot already on the practice fields. Like
there's some recency bias too, though. Don't you think that like? So I don't want to. This is painful to say, but like when you go back and look at the Kyle McCord tape and the number of guys he missed and the critical overlooked plays within the Michigan game that you'll never think of, where it's like, oh, just pop the balloon with missing a wide open guy. There's recency bias toward a quarterback that can throw the ball with accuracy. But don't you think that Sayin also has some of that cool, like unbothered moxie that McCord was like 180 degrees from? So you're seeing a guy that handles his business, handles himself. He's a freshman. He's living away from home 3 time zones from Carlsbad, and he's just unbothered.
California cool.
That probably accentuates it.
That's a great point. Kyle would show up in those turtleneck suits, and they kind of look cool, but you can tell he was like, he didn't know if they look cool. He was like, I'm going to try this. I have no idea.
Somebody told him.
Yeah. Sayin would just throw it on and look cool and knows he looks cool. There's a difference there, and it's hard to kind of put a finger on that.
He's from a beach community. Carlsbad's just like on the water. It's north of San Diego. It's super chill. Right out of Central Casting from that part of the country.
Yeah, we've talked before about the brains in the family. Mom and dad are super smart. Brothers at Penn as a cornerback. Sister played soccer for U Chicago. Like some brains in the family. But you got 5 on the roster. And you got Howard they brought in, Brown, Keenholz, Sayin, and then Aaron Nolan, who they also is a new player this year as a freshman. Some of these guys got to be kind of wondering right now, if you're hearing your coach and other players on the team rave about a freshman that just got here. You're Lincoln Keenholz, maybe you're Aaron Nolan, maybe, one of those guys, Devin Brown, you're probably thinking like, man, maybe I have a better option somewhere else. Do you guys feel that?
I
think we'll have 4 quarterbacks by Independence Day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very. I mean, I don't know why Keenholz he's apparently gotten passed already, right? By Sayin. I mean, I think by any measure that's already happened. I thought Brown would have already transferred, but he's like defiant as hell and and says you're an idiot if you think that and you're a quitter,
no more
which
votes,
is awesome.
Man.
Like I love it. That's great.
Votes are gone.
Yeah. I mean, I want him to stay.
Yeah,
for sure. But so he's tough to read because I feel like he could have already left and could be a starter somewhere. Keenholz seems like the no-brainer though, just because of his age and the fact that Sayin has passed him on the clearly has passed him on the depth chart already. Another interesting piece with Sayin to me is just that I wonder, like I don't think it's chicken and egg, but I don't know that in past years, and a lot of this is because of Chip Kelly, that some of these guys are getting reps with the ones. I think a lot of times there's already at least an established who might have a chance to play type deal, and everybody else is fighting for reps with 2s if they're lucky, and if not 3s. And the fact that he's in that mix and you can see him play, and Day kind of talked about it yesterday, that you can kind of see these guys when they're not on third team and where everything else around them might be a bit of a mess. You can probably get a better gauge on what they can do, and I think that's helped because I think Dan Hope actually asked the question of if Sayin was really in the mix or not, and he's said absolutely that he is. I'm still not convinced. I don't think he's going to start, but he's earned his rep with the ones. But even if not, it feels like Kelly would have been rotating him through, and it's given those guys some visibility with a top tier line, with the top tier receivers and weapons around them.
Yeah, I want to put you guys on the spot for two follow-ups. Is there a chance that Sayin could be named the starter this season? Okay, don't say, oh yeah, there's a 1% chance. Is there a good chance? Can you see it plausibly happening?
Non-zero.
Non-zero. I mean, a lot of things are non-zero. Most things in life are non-zero. Can you also give me a guess on if anyone hits the portal when it opens next week? Do you think we'll see someone leave that soon, like Tuesday when it opens?
Like beyond Dallin Hayden? Yes. I think
or a quarterback, specifically a quarterback.
I could see Keenholz jumping.
Early as next week?
Yeah, I think sooner than later, because you leave because you want to play, because you want to start. You've got a year, you've got college experience, and if you wait, you're impairing your ability to start this season, because he can sit on the bench this season at Ohio State. There's no reason to jump unless you can. I mean, getting quarterback. This is quarterback school, so he's in a good spot. He's got Chip Kelly, and he's got Ryan Day. The only reason you would get in the portal is because you want to start now. You've got a schedule that you're trying to stick to. And I could see Keenholz doing it. I think, when you talk about non-contact spring practices, I think you're going to hear more about Devin Brown, like we did last year, like we did during Cotton Bowl practices. But what's happened when he's gotten into games and the black jersey comes off? the durability is a problem. And I don't know if between the Purdue game last year, the Missouri game last year, and now, has he gotten his conditioning to the place where, someone's going to touch him and he's not going to turn into pretzel rods? Not diminishing like how violent football is,
right?
But he got injured every time he was contacted last year,
right?
And so, whereas Kienholz came into that catastrophe Cotton Bowl, threw himself around, tried to make plays in an unwinnable situation, and didn't end up limping. So I could see Kienholz leaving. Will Howard came in to be the starter. I think it's his to lose, but he could lose it. And if he loses it, it would probably be to Sayin. And they've got 6 games that they're going to win with any one of the 3 of us behind center.
Yeah.
So they've got some time to figure it out during the season.
Chris?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think Kienholz is the obvious name, and doesn't mean that he will. But if you're just thinking logically, if I was him, I would definitely be looking at another option beyond the 2 guys in front of me. Like I said, there's at least a guy lateral with me, probably ahead of me, that's a year younger. That's a problem. So I think that you have to take that into account if you do want to play, and if you do want to play even remotely soon. As far as saying starting this year, I think you hit it, Ramsey. I don't see that happening like early. I could see him playing early because they're going to be up and they want to see what this guy's about. And hey, maybe late in the season, if there's maybe one injury and he continues to develop, I wouldn't rule that out. But I don't think hey, to open the season, we're gonna go with this true freshman. I just don't know that I see it. And maybe another part of that would be because of just, what do you need from the quarterback? Because you always want to play the best guy, obviously, but I think you can afford to bring him along a little bit because you have so much around him.
Yeah, and you almost wonder too if with the stuff around him, if Day doesn't get a little conservative and say, give me a guy that's got 4 years under his belt, guy that's seen a lot of stuff, even though maybe Sayin's a better player. It's going to be really interesting to see how it goes and who he rolls with and what happens, because Sayin is certainly turning heads and earning the respect of his teammates. Another guy doing that, Jeremiah Smith. Man, I think we were on with Jones last week and we mentioned, you look at Calvin Johnson, someone like that goes to Georgia Tech, and you're like, imagine Ohio State getting a guy like that just one time. Just give us that one time. And that's where my mind's wandering to right now, that he's a super freak. Like, there's buzz, and then there's buzz from real people. Like, fans will buzz about a lot of things. The guys on the beat that go to watch his stuff, though, they're buzzing about Jeremiah Smith. And every time you turn on, you go on the internet, you look at, there's videos of him from practice just mossing someone or making spectacular plays. He really does look that good. First guy to lose his black stripe of this entire class back on the 26th of March. And, I don't know. I'm just been burned before. We get excited about certain things, and I like to think in our age that we're better about that now, but I feel like I'm getting caught up in this Jeremiah Smith stuff, and I feel like I probably should be getting caught up in it.
You mentioned Calvin Johnson, which is a good place to start for a couple reasons. One, obviously the measurables.
Not the Corey Dennis angle?
No. Corey Dennis was in 4th grade, not yet the recipient of family tree job offers. Smith looks like the composite of every good wide receiver Ohio State's had for the last 3 seasons. Like, if you combine them into one guy, you've got the obvious physical attributes of Marvin Harrison, the shiftability of someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's got hands in traffic like Chris Olave, and then Garrett Wilson, but bigger. It's a long
Chris,
day.
are you as excited as I am? I mean, like, I feel like I'm dangerously dumb about this right now.
Yeah, no, I said last week, I mean, he's a starter. He's going to play starter reps. There's going to be 4 guys that play starter reps this year, and then there's going to be everybody else, which, speaking of transfer portal, we might see a couple of those guys go in, depending on how they think that's going to shape out. What's that? Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to see a scenario where he's not. And I feel like we are like older and have seen it and are not, don't fall victim to that stuff. But everybody that you trust that goes and watches this guy at practice just comes away marveling. I saw DeVere Posey yesterday, who we used to see at the radio show all the time. He's like, yeah, practice today. I'm pretty sure Jeremiah went for 350 yards during practice today. I mean, the dude is just, eating every single day. And when Day talks about his approach, you talked about his measurables, his discipline, he's already a veteran in size and in mindset. And we already knew he had the skill set. So yeah, I don't see a scenario where he's not a top, he's going to be a top 3 receiver on this team. No doubt. It's a question of will he be the second best or better in my eyes.
Yeah.
You guys remember when Claret came in spring and Ohio State was returning Maurice Hall and Lydell Ross, who serviceable kind of project. We now know what their careers were like, but then they were sophomores. And we're like, oh, these guys are going to be, a 1-2 punch or speed, straight line speed. There's juke ability, Flydell Ross. Claret came in and basically he did what Justin Fields did to Tate Martell. Started figuratively following all of his sisters, liking all of her sisters' pictures on Instagram, announcing his presence. Jeremiah Smith didn't come in to wait his turn, and he showed it very quickly. And when guys show up on campus early and do that, get out of the damn way.
Right. Yeah, they're smart enough to know that as a staff too. Caleb Downs, also flashing, really, really good player, another young guy. I mean, this is a team that's got so many guys coming back. That was a story of the offseason. All these guys coming back for another crack. And then you get this youth infusion, and it's hard not to get excited about what we're going to be in for this fall. Another guy caught my eye, Will Smith Jr., man, already lost his black stripe. Came in as not one of the higher rated guys in his class, but already losing his stripe. And how fun of a story would that be to see him just have a tremendous career here in Columbus?
Coming off being hurt. I mean, writes itself. Chris?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's, it would be a great story. I think we're going to have to wait a little while for that story to evolve, probably, at least in a meaningful, in a real meaningful role kind of way. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't remember the Fresh Prince wrecking havoc at defensive end, and obviously a sad ending to all that. And yeah, it's great to have his son here. One of those times where Ohio State got it right with legacy, right? We all cringe on Antoine Winfield Jr. not playing here. Getting Will Smith in here was a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. Spring game Saturday noon at Ohio Stadium, obviously. Televised nationally on Fox. Our Urban Meyer will be on the call. Where does this one fall, guys, in terms of the hype meter? Seems like, most spring games, there's maybe something here or there, and some are really fun. Like I remember the one after they won the Natty in January 2015. A few months later, you had Cardale out there and JT with the longest throw competition. It was packed. It was gorgeous. I think that one did 99K. They got 101 almost in 2016. 96K, one of Tressel's last year in 2009. Last year was only 75K. They're a little bit ahead of that this year. So trending towards 90 or above. But where do you guys kind of put it on the hype meter, given all the things we just discussed?
If you look at the variables and the precedent, they've lost to Michigan 3 times in a row. So the last spring game that happened wasn't even 94 because there was a tie in there. Go ahead and call it 94. And that was a pretty interesting spring game because it was a walk-on receiver that people I don't recognize 83. Who's that? Mm-hmm. It was Terry Glenn, who then a year later wins the Bolitnikoff. But in terms of, if you strip out the details and the precedents, it kind of is reminiscent for me of 2009, where you've got a freshman Terrell Pryor season under the belt. They still got to a BCS bowl and lost to Texas at the end. I think that 2009 spring game, at least for a couple of years, was the most attended spring game they ever had. Because it was like, all right, we've got Pryor for 2 more seasons. It begins now. 2008 was like a rebuilding year under Tressel where they only tied for the Big Ten title. And I remember it was pretty electric going in there because of, A, they knew they'd be good, but B, the combination of good and unknown were coming together. And that's what this team looks like. We just finished spending 10 minutes talking about freshmen who should be going to proms this week, and how excited we are for them. But then also some of the retooling, reshuffling, and all the guys that came back from last year. What is this going to look like? What's it going to present like in the spring game? And what are they going to do when it matters against Michigan and they need to stop or they need to drive? So yeah, there's a lot going into the intrigue for this one, but it's a combination of upside and unknown.
Yeah, sunny, high of 65-ish around the time of the spring game. Moderate breeze, pretty decent weather for April. Chris, what about you? What do you put it on your hype list among other recent spring games?
Yeah,
that had similar
I
hype?
don't know if it's so much hype, but as far as like my own personal interest, I feel like it's always high, but I feel like it's much higher here because this game, what it features is at least a couple facets I'm really interested in. Who's the quarterback going to be? And I want to see Carnell Tate in his second year. Like nobody's talking about Carnell Tate. I want to see him in his second year. I want to see Jeremiah Smith. I want to see Brandon Ennis in his second year. Like the passing game was what I'm really, really interested in. And the spring game, that's what you always get, whether you want it or not, right? It's going to be a lot of passing because they're not going to run it a bunch when they're doing thud. I know they said they're going to do some thud early and then they're going to do then they're going to do tackling. But a lot of that tackling is going to be with guys that aren't starters or haven't played a ton of reps, which to me means, okay, yeah, we're probably going to see a lot of throwing the ball around with these quarterbacks. So for me, that's where I'm like even more interested than usual is I want to see this passing game. And I also want to see, not that I'm smart enough to detect it, but what are some conclusions we can draw from Chip Kelly? Like what is his, what are some of his influences on this offense that maybe look different than last year? I'm interested to see just what some of the, the play calling, play design type stuff looks like. And what does a Kyle Jones say about it afterward? I think those are definitely things I'm looking for that are making it a really exciting afternoon for me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm going to be watching the quarterbacks big time. I want to see who gets a lot of reps. I want to see how quickly Sayin gets to throw. And obviously, it'll be split squads. So you can't take like a pecking order out of a ton, but want to see how he does. Want to see how his first balls in the shoe among the public. Want to see how Aaron Nolan looks. I want to see how Will Howard looks. These are guys that are all new to the program. I want to see Lincoln. I want to see what Devin can do, and I want to see who kind of like has some sizzle. Who if there's anyone that jumps out at you and you're like, that guy's got it. I want to see if that moment happens during the game. Lincoln kind of struggled in the Cotton Bowl, right? Did not look like he was in good shape, and part of that's his, how much he was prepared going in and his age and a function of that. But you like to think though, if there are guys that have it, certain guys just have it. They're going to give you something more than maybe we got from him. And I don't know if that was just like a really good defense in some bad circumstances, or if it means something more about whether he has it. But I kind of want to see some of that stuff in the spring game, and and I guess I'll be tuning in a little harder this year than previous years. So in terms of hype, it's up there for me.
Well, and the quarterbacks, it's also their success or what you're looking for is going to be predicated on what the offensive line does or doesn't do against what we know is a very good defensive line, right? So I think that offensive line, it's harder to draw conclusions there because a lot of those guys may be out or you're doing that, that thud type stuff. But, what does this right side of the line is still feels like it's not, super solidified. Day talked yesterday, I thought was really interesting about, he seemed more confident in Josh Fryar at right tackle than he has at any point. I felt like he was less confident in Luke Montgomery at right guard. He talked about how Fryar's played some right guard, but long term they see Fryar as a tackle. And then later Bill Landis asked him about, hey, beginning of spring or in winter, you said, hey, you feel like the answers to your offensive line are in the locker room. How do you feel about that now? And he seemed to be, he certainly didn't close the door on hitting the portal. So I've always thought, I've said it many times on this show or others of like, man, you got to get a right tackle. You got to get a right tackle. I'm starting to wonder if they go shopping in the offensive line, would it potentially be at right guard? But it feels like it's going to be a piece on that right side if they do. But I just thought it was interesting how much he talked about Fryar's like overhauled his diet and his much quicker feet and, is as dedicated as they come. And then I'm telling myself stories of, remember Taylor Decker's first year was not good, right? And then he's elite and he's still elite in the NFL. So while I've been worried all offseason about Fryar, I'm kind of now like, okay, the right side's still a question mark on this team, but is it right guard or is it right tackle or, oh my gosh, is it both?
Or have they not played together long enough to be cohesive on the end of the line?
Or is it Chip coming in and saying, hey, I see something here that maybe you didn't see? And this is the one guy, the one human that Day is absolutely going to trust, right? He talked. Chip's going to have cachet with him. So, yeah. I mean, it'd be really cool to have a really good offensive line. I mean, that's my hot take.
It could be some of that schematic stuff, too, that I was talking earlier. Again, maybe we won't notice it, but maybe they're just certain plays you call or blocking things like that can maybe either disguise somebody's weakness or more cater to their strengths up front. Could that be a piece of the puzzle too? I don't know, but Day did talk about Simmons and Fryar both said it's noticeable how much better they are. And I thought Simmons, it was mostly mental. He had some physical breakdowns last year, like any of the guys up front, but I felt like toward the end of the year, he was, felt like he was kind of locking in. You never really felt that way about right tackle. So yeah, another thing to watch for on Saturday, just maybe a little harder to measure depending on how much they actually play.
I think he's no worse than a second team All Big Ten right tackle.
Cool thing about Simmons too is if he cashes in and does well and gets it, makes money for himself, that's a promotional, that's advertising for the future portal guys. Hey, he came here from San Diego State. Now he's a first or second round pick in the NFL. You can do that too. So a lot of rooting interest there. What about you, Ramsey? What are you watching for in the game?
It's, they're kind of doing show and tell. There's stuff that they want to see, and then they immediately don't want to show too much of it. The rushing philosophy the last couple of years has been like, we need a yard. Let's run something designed to lose 2. It's been stale and fail and lousy, and nothing exemplified that more than the Notre Dame game, where they just had like 3rd and 4th and 1 after 3rd and 4th and 1, and they were running like weak side end arounds and like running right into the sideline, like some of the most harebrained stuff. And I wonder if it's like philosophically, is it because Ryan Day is a passing fetishist? Is it because of the really green offensive line? Is it because he's doing too many jobs during a game where he's coaching his starting quarterback, calling plays, and being the head coach? I'm interested to see not the specific types of tactics that they'll manufacture some 3rd and 4th and short on Saturday. What sort of run game diversity are they going to show for a play designed to get 3 yards when you need one? That's going to get you 3 yards when you need one. And that, I think, is going to be really telling. Because if you go back and look at how Ohio State lost the only game that mattered last year, Cotton Bowl, wasn't it? They were losing short yardage situations like they've done for the last 3 seasons. And so that has to be, the things that need to be corrected, they've got to get a yard when they need a yard. And it can't be like overthought and silly running to the boundary instead of the field when the sideline becomes a 12th tackler. I'm going to be looking at stuff like that because I don't think that's showing too much. I think that's demonstrating like we're going to put our guys in position to move chains.
We got some prop bets for the spring game we put together. Some fun ones here. Chris, the first one I had, you had me bump it up. I originally had over under 4.5 catches for Jeremiah Smith, and you said it should be near 8. So I kind of met you at 6.5 because 8's a lot for a spring game.
Taking the under.
Yeah. So, Chris, I'm going to assume you're the over because you said 8 and it's at 6.5. I'm an under guy too.
Yeah, he's still a freshman, so I think he's going to play more than like Egbuka, right? He's probably going to play more than Tate. And because he's the Terminator, I don't think he can be hurt. So I think that, he'll probably be out there for a while. And I think there's also something to, you want to see some of those quarterbacks be able to throw to all of the guys if you truly are still evaluating at this point, which I believe that you are. So, I think that as much as anything is, they're going to want to showcase them. The guys worked hard all spring. Like you're trying to make this a place, it's already a football factor, but where kids want to come and it's like, you can be showcased. And I think it's an opportunity to just cash in on everything that has been, hyped about Jeremiah so far to get the fans in a lather. So I'll take the over 6.5. No problem.
That's a good point. You almost had me convinced to go over, but I'm going to stay under 6.5. Next
it's
one.
Under because of the guys that are going to be marking him. You think they want to become posterized on a nationally televised scrimmage?
I think some of them have already made peace with it, man. Like Denzel's tweet last week. I think some are just like, he's just really good, man. Sorry. We're going to lock up the guys we play. We can't do anything against him, man. Over under longest run of the day, 37 yards.
Under.
I'll say, I'll take the over there just to be contrarian. I remember 3rd and 4th stringers will play late, and Dave feels like he's got a bunch of running backs back there. Does he have like 5 safeties back? I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'll take the over.
I think we'll get a bunch of 8 and 12-yard gashes, but 37. Someone's
going to blow the plate dead before that. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. I'll go over though.
Yeah, I want to go near, man. I'm probably that's a tough one for me. I think I could see I'm going to go over. Or I'm going to pick a side. I'm going to go over too because 37's a nice run, but that's not like 88 or something insane, right? So 37s happen with some frequency. I mean, they're not, not as often as like an 18-yarder or things like that. But I'm going to go over too. Over under interceptions thrown by the quarterbacks. We have 1.5. This is total cumulative for all quarterbacks.
Over.
Yeah, I think over because they're just going to be 70 passes thrown, or there's going to be a lot of balls in the air. So I'll say over just because of the volume.
Okay. I would go over on that. Just tip drill interceptions.
You got a really experienced secondary too. Really talented,
unseasoned hands. Jelani Thurman and Keck Merrick are going to be catching balls in a fishbowl.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna join you guys on that and go over. Last one. Over under the number of best I've ever been around phrases to come out of Urban Meyer's mouth in the booth.
9.5.
It's 2.5, but 9.5. So that sounds like you want the over. I'm at 2.5. I mean, I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under 2.5 because, I can see him using it at least one time, maybe twice, but I think he catches himself before he says it 3 times because even he's got to know. He's like, man, he probably talks to Shelly. He's like, I say this a lot, don't you? I got to work on not saying it as much. But he loves saying that phrase, man.
I'm praying for the over. I need the over because I'd much rather watch this at home than go there, especially being on a national broadcast. So yeah, I gotta over because I have to will it to happen. I need it.
Ramsey, you're at 9.5 for that. I think that was
he's going to go over just on talking about Day.
He might. Well, have you guys thought of this though? I mean, he doesn't know the players as well as he would have 3-4 years ago. Like the guys in the program.
But he'll be able to harken back to his guys.
He's talking about his own era.
Yeah. He will talk about his own era. And he'll talk about some assistants. Probably Mick Marotti will get one of them.
Antoni.
Okay. Yeah. That's going to be one to watch, man.
They're going to talk at some point about McLaughlin being a center brought in from Alabama. He'll bring up Corey Lindsley. He'll bring up Billy Price. He'll bring up Pat Elflein. And all 3 of those guys will each get one of the best centers I've ever been around, and you can be like, we just hit the over on 3 centers.
one 2-minute segment, he crushes it, and everyone's cashing in.
Please let it happen.
Let's talk about Seth. Let's add him as a bonus over-under. Over-under number of bad snaps from Seth, and I'm going to put it at 1.
Under. I'm feeling lucky.
I am too. I think this man, since the Rose Bowl, is focused on nothing but snapping the football and thought about nothing but snapping the football. And I'm really optimistic about his snaps.
Yeah, well, we have to also put some definition. Is it going to be one that's airmailed, dribbled, or one that Will Howard has to reach out to the left in one hand?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be bad, like on the turf.
Biggest needs to know.
Yeah, and we can't have these situations where that might have been the quarterbacks so it basically has to be a shotgun because the exchange, it could be anybody. It's hard for us as fans to tell whose fault it is during an exchange, like an under center exchange. But the dustbusters he was sending out in the Rose Bowl over the head, just the obvious stuff. If a quarterback's got to take a step in one direction, let's do that. And let's settle there.
I think we know what bad looks like on a snap. Yeah.
Very objective word. We'll figure it out, man. So we got our bets in. We'll come back next week to brag about those. But again, I think the best I've ever been around could be the hottest prop bet for this year's spring game.
Guys, this is the best show I've ever been around.
It is the best show I've ever been around too. Let's talk some hoops, man. Jake Diebler's making noise, right? He's going out there and getting commitments from 5 stars.
5-star Wednesday.
Yeah, Marcus Johnson committed yesterday. He's Garfield Heights star guard. Cousin Amici is a 5-star prospect, number 4 guard in the class, number 24 overall player, top player in Ohio. Again, this is Jake's first commitment. This is a 2026 kid. They don't even have any 25 commits yet. And Marcus Johnson is so excited for what he sees here that he's like, I'm ready to commit right now. But I was looking through, getting the top player in Ohio is easy for football. They can do that just about any year they want to. Basketball, it's only happened 3 times in the last decade. 2017, Caleb Wesson was the top player in the state of Ohio. 2021, Branham was the top player in the state of Ohio. And then 2023, Devin Royal of Pickerington was the top player in the state of Ohio. So it's not a very common occurrence, man, on the basketball side of things. You got guys going to Duke and Notre Dame and, in the top 3s or so every year. And Ohio State didn't always get those guys. Cavs, a guy back in about 20 years ago went to the Cavs. Big win for him, which I think was kind of big because fans got some news a few days ago. Matt Norlander of CBS Sports, when John Calipari was heading to Arkansas and kind of stunned the college basketball world, and he's going to be Arkansas's new coach. Matt Norlander was like, oh, yeah, he was very close to becoming Ohio State's next coach. He had significant interest in the job. He used the word significant / serious interest in the Ohio State job. But said, the timing wasn't right. And everyone's like, Coach Cal in Columbus? Is that a no-brainer? Is that one of those things where, like, yes, 100% take it? Like Urban Meyer was when they were after the Luke Fickell season. Is that just a no-brainer? You take the guy. Like, he's that good? Or is there some thought to maybe Cal's lost his fastball?
I think about the level playing field of NIL and what that's done to guys like Rick Pitino, Calipari, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban just retired. Guys that operated with a level of autonomy and a fluid interpretation of what's towing the line or just outright not abiding by rules. And you've seen it diminish a little bit. Doesn't mean they suck now. Clemson's not terrible at football. Kentucky's not awful at basketball, but that differentiating piece has been muted. And I wonder, it comes out during game day coaching. We just got through the swan song of the Chris Holtmann era where you knew what was going to happen after halftime in every game. And Kentucky fans were beleaguered because they're starting to see what Coach Calipari looks like when there's just a basketball court and fans, and not when the stuff that differentiated him, who he was able to bring in to the places where he stopped. It's tough because championship legacy is on the downswing too, right? I mean, it's obvious. Is that when you want to get? Do you want O.J. Simpson on the 49ers? You want O.J. Simpson from the Bills? Wow, that's a dated reference. I could have probably got more recent than that, but I think he's in the right spot. We got Jake Diebler is beginning his career. He's an elite recruiter. He's going to have probably some growing pains, but there's upside and there's runway there. There's neither of those with John Calipari. He was just at UK, inexhaustible basketball resources. Why would Ohio State think they can be better for him?
Yeah, and the thing is, he was getting good players at UK. Like, his last few classes have been really good,
right?
But they're just not seeing the results on the court. Chris, you probably follow college basketball more than both of us. Where are you at on this? Would bringing Calipari in be a slam dunk, or again, is he someone you maybe pass on at this point in time?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to what would the school be willing to spend in resources. To your point, Ramsey, I mean, the game has changed. It's a little bit more equal playing field. So if you're going to be able to sign classes like that every year, because he was still getting talent, to your point, Jason, he hadn't lost his fastball, I don't think, in recruiting, but running the overall program, making sure you got assistants that can fill in the gaps and do all that, feels like maybe where some more of the cracks in the armor were coming in. He's 65, to your point. I think he's 65.
Wow.
So doesn't look it, and still going to be coaching for a while, I'm sure. But I do think that would be a factor. But I mean, to get him, what do you have to spend to get him? I'm not sure Ohio State's willing to commit those kinds of dollars to the head coach on top of what you'd have to commit to help reinforce it. He's going to get those players in the door. They're going to want to listen, but they're also going to get paid, because if you're getting those guys to listen, well, they're already listening to Duke. They're already listening to Kansas. They're already listening to any other UConn, whoever you want to list. So it isn't going to just be, let me go play for Coach Cal. If it's either Hurley or it's Bill Self or it's these other guys. You also have to come with a bag. And I'm just remain unconvinced that Ohio State's, I don't know if willing or able is the right word, but willing or able to really do that and spend that kind of money on a roster, let alone what it would take to get the coach here. So if you told me, hey, Calipari wanted to come here and it worked out, I think I'd be pretty happy today. But I can also understand why, it's not really the move, or the timing isn't right. That might have been the timing's not right on both sides, not just Calipari's side.
Do you think he'll have success, like a major success at Arkansas?
I think he's got one run left in him. I think this probably, what happened at Kentucky probably fuels some of that. I think some of those folks is, it's kind of like Thad's down years. After a while, it's like we all love Thad, but you're also like, man, like, can you get back to form? Now, his was health driven. I fully believe that, right? Yeah. And he was on the right side of that uneven playing field as far as how he was playing the game, because he was still doing it with integrity. So I think that factored in. But I think, I still feel like Cal, because speaking of money, like, Arkansas's got money. Those guys are going to be spending big money to help him get a roster. And like I said, half the battle is getting that player to listen to you. The other part then is following through with the bag. And I think Arkansas is going to be willing to do that. And they probably see this as a short window, right? I mean, those boosters are saying, okay, yeah, let's turn it on. He is 65, but we can get a run here, and we can put a good team together. It's not like football. You don't need 22 guys to be good. You literally need 2 or 3 to be really good, and then spackle some role guys around them, and you can win a championship.
See what shakes out. The news is just interesting that, a lot of OSU fans, not a lot, but there's probably a segment that, are maybe not sold on Diebler yet. And, oh, goodness, we hired the interim, and, what's his experience and what's he done. And so kind of nice to see him to land a 5-star so quickly after, hey, this Hall of Fame coach was interested in coming here. Let me get your whole fan base to doubt your hire for a couple days. And the news he needed. He's also filled out his staff, or he's got, I think, one more hire to make. But on Monday, hired Joel Justice as the associate head coach of the program. Spent a year at Arizona State, 7 years at Kentucky. Previously, just most recently, I should say, he was with North Carolina State on that Final Four run. Not a basketball head, but basketball heads seem to love this hire.
All the way around, right? I think from an analytics perspective, from a recruiting perspective, and some of the guys he's been under, we just talked about Calipari. He was with him for a while at Kentucky. I think that, from everything I've seen from people that know way more about it than me, they seem really excited about about this hire. So I think, you got to be really happy with the talent he's been able to amass on the sideline so far. I know Dickerson, not everybody's, thinking that's a move in spades. I know Ramsey, you're there. I'm kind of indifferent myself. But I think this Justice hire is, the biggest one so far.
Also,
I listen to basketball heads. I don't know the dude, but
yeah,
good track record. I mean, good.
Defer to those guys. On Wednesday, hired Jamal Walker. Added to the staff as an assistant coach. Walker was poached from Grand Canyon University, which I'm very disappointed. I didn't, I've heard this name. I've heard of Grand Canyon University. It's miles away, so you don't it's not in the, we're not talking or thinking about a lot. So I was like, where is this in relation to Grand Canyon? Is it actually close? Give me something, right? It's
in the hole, right?
It's almost 4 hours away from the Grand Canyon.
I thought it was right smack in the middle of the hole.
No, it's like suburban Phoenix. It should be in the canyon. You should have some classrooms down there. You're going to call yourself why don't we just call ourselves the Puget Sound U and put in Columbus or something if we're going to go that. I mean, 3.5, 4 hours away from Grand Canyon. But anyway, he's from there. Was an assistant, helped lead them to, the dance in 21, 23, 24. They had a first-round upset of St. Mary's this year. Prior to that, spent 8 seasons on the Illinois staff. So familiar with the Big Ten. I'm still kind of bullish on Diebler. I really am, man. I know that there are some out there that don't, are not super excited with the hire and, the interim, but
I'm good with it.
I am too. And it probably helps that it's a sport that I care about 20% as much as the other sport. I think that probably helps. I hate saying that publicly, but this is a football school. I love football.
It's allowed. They had Illinois beat too. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
You sound like
when they're good. When they're good, I'm a super fan.
If you coach the whole season, they're in the tournament.
Oh, he is. Yeah. They're probably like a 7 seed, or something.
A folding chair could have done that.
I'm hoping they beat UConn twice last season.
I think most of what I see with Diebler is not so much I'm just more wait and see. It's not that I'm not optimistic. It's just you don't really have anything to go on, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this whole Marcus Johnson stuff that was tailor made, right? I think that's frankly one of the reasons that they did hire him. I think they knew that Marcus Johnson would definitely commit to Ohio State. I think it's been pretty clear, pretty known for a while that those that him and his dad are close with Diebler, and I don't know, felt like that was going to happen. It was just a matter of when it would be official. But the timing was great to your point, Jason, of just some of that Calipari stuff. But I think, like I said, for me, it's just more wait and just wait and see.
Yeah, saw some odds the other day. Ohio State's 50-1 to win it all next season in men's basketball. The
free money,
26th best odds. So if you're kind of wondering, but some reason to be excited. He finished. Diebler. I keep saying this. He's passing all the tests he needs to pass. He made a run in the Big Ten tournament. He had a good, decent run in NIT. Finished the regular season strong. Upset Purdue. Won at Michigan State. He's passing the tests.
He is. The immediate next test, though, is still kind of unfolding, right? And hey, hopefully he passes that one too. But they've got to fill out this roster. That's great. You've got a kid in 3 years that's coming in. You feel really good about that's a 5-star, but they've got, they still have some holes in this roster that they've got to handle. And there's every reason to believe, to your point, I think his best attribute in getting this job was his ability to recruit. Yeah. So their ability to go out and find a shooting guard, a small forward that's legit, another big man. And you see like a lot of the folks that reporting of who has shown interest or players have shown interest in Ohio State. There's some legit talent out there. So it'll be interesting to see how they round out the roster.
Season ended on Monday. He's not late.
No.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Not insinuating he is. Just saying you have some spots over this next couple weeks that you really got to fill, and they're going to be crucial. You can't go find another Zed Key. Like you need upgrades, right? Like they've got to be, especially at the 3. Like you've got to find someone that's a wing scorer that can start. And while there's lots of guys out there, you've got to close a deal and find the right one that's going to mesh with your point guard and your shooting guard that that definitely take a lot of shots and can all be done. Again, I'm not naysaying. I'm just saying it's a critical time if you're thinking about you're not going to fire him after 1 year, but fans want to see a winner and they want to see it next year. And I think to be better than this year's team, they're not there yet. They still have a lot of work to do.
Yep. The good thing is we are talking about basketball with optimism, and it's been a long time since we were able to do that. Had a blast today. Thanks, guys, for joining, and thanks for tuning in. As always, take care of each other. Be good to each other.